Hello and welcome to Steps to Lead podcast. My name is Rochelle and I have a wonderful dynamic person today. This is a, a chance discussion because we were supposed to do this. This is over a year that we were supposed
Yes,
to but
absolutely.
yeah, but life and being a parent and working and studying and life was what they say was lifing.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
so we did not have the opportunity at the time when we wanted it, but the Lord made it when
Yes.
He wanted it. And we thank the Lord for that. Before I let him introduce himself, I will tell you a little bit about what I have observed in this person because he was an inspiration for me when I first had my stroke. I went on Instagram looking for a person to talk about or learn more about stroke and everything, and I found this person and others, but I gravitate to his story about his stroke and everything because he was going through a lot of what I was going through. So I was so happy to find him. And this is, oh my goodness, this is September 24th was my 6 years anniversary. I think this is the same time that I found this person. So with you knowing this information, you will know this person went down a same path of like me. And I'm glad the Lord has bring him through so that he can let everyone know of the goodness of God. So I would like to introduce my friend Will Carter, and I will let him introduce himself to you. So, hello, Will. So
Hi,
happy that
Rochelle.
you are here.
I'm so happy to be here. I love that. That makes me feel so good to hear that God used me in that way in your life. That makes me so happy.
Yes, 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 because I was, you could say at that time, I was not that I felt like just the alone, but in my country, they do not have a person talking about strokes or things. So I started to do it because I was inspired by you and some others. So I said, well, I will start to do it. So yes, it was wonderful
So
that
happy. Oh, absolutely. And wonderful that I met you. And I think for me, that just makes me so happy because God, yeah, he moves in amazing ways.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
The only reason that I ever got on Instagram is because I had written this memoir, which is set to come out next year, and I had been fighting the spirit telling me to write it. Spirit had been telling me to write it for a long time, and then I got on Instagram to build my platform, and God was like, "Here's how I want you to do it." And then so it was all God. God made this happen. He set everything in motion.
yeah, yeah. So just introduce yourself. Let us know a little more about Will.
Oh, sure. So happy to talk about that. I mean, for me, I'm a brain injury stroke survivor. I was in a car accident in 2007, October 7th, 2007. It was my senior year. And actually, the day after my accident, I was scheduled to retake the SAT so that I could get into Wake Forest. I am a husband. My beautiful wife, Ashley. I've got two wonderful kids. Ellie's 3. Alexander is 10 months. And I'm a professor. I'm a lecturer of English over at Kennesaw State University. I am a writer. I regularly write about my disability and have that have a memoir, Getting Better, coming out in 2024 through Running Wild Press. But the thing I hope they say about me is my goal as a professor and as just a person is I say to make light, because there's this song I love where they talk about we pull apart the darkness while we can. And what's the aspect of pulling apart the darkness is we make light. So I strive to make light in my work, in my home, in my church, in all my interactions, is to be the light of Christ.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. When did the Lord became real for you? Of course, if you grow up being in church with your parents, of course, the Lord was in your life. But, we are children. We are being told.
I mean, I'm gonna qualify this. I would say afraid, but I mean, I was raised in a Christian house. I was raised by, my parents are awesome, glorious Christian people. I had I have a very loving mother and father who modeled Christ for me. And I thought I became saved at 3, but I know I don't want to go out. I don't want to make some bold statement. I will question anybody on that because I just wanted to make an adult in the room happy. You know,
Mm,
it wasn't that I really believed. And I say afraid because um, for me, I became a Christian summer after my 7th grade year. I was at a student-led worship conference. And I say afraid because that whole year before, I was very worried for my brother. My brother got very involved in drugs and had actually given his girlfriend at the time the drugs that she overdosed on. And so so I didn't know what was going to happen to him. I didn't know where he was going to go. And that was very hard because for me, growing up, I was very blessed, very fortunate. I didn't really have too many struggles. Life was pretty good. I had great parents who cared about me. I had a great sports system, great church. I mean, maybe in middle school, I mean, maybe I was a little bit lonelier because it's middle school and it's hard and it's struggled. But like all in all, life was pretty good. And then I get hit with this thing from my brother, and it just shattered that illusion that I'm in control. Everything is, like as long as I just keep doing what I need to do, life's gonna be good. And I just felt this you know, I remember being in the student-led worship conference and the other fear and anxiety of just, I mean, social interaction. I don't think anybody would have known that. It was not, I mean, clear. A lot of it was happening internally, but just trying to fit in, try to find my place. And then I had all this fear for my brother and what does this mean? And then I remember I heard my friend, he became my friend after, this guy, Michael Chu. And he has cerebral palsy. And there was this great moment where he let go of his walker and he collapsed. And he was describing our life apart from Christ
wow.
as, no, we have no strength. We are dead in our trespasses and sins. We are lost, enemies of God, And then a guy came and picked Michael up and put him in his arms. And, it was this great show of this is what Christ looks like,
Yeah.
you know. And so I think that's the thing is like that's the thing that really sort of, I knew at that moment like that's what I feel.
Yeah,
I
your spirit was touched and I was open.
Oh, absolutely. And I don't want to get theological here, but I had this moment where I was like, I feel this, and the only reason I would say I felt it, and this is where I'll get a little theological, um, the Spirit of God moved in me.
Mm-hmm.
No, nothing. It was nothing of will. There's no aspect of will like I'm not better or smarter or stronger. That's why I could accept God.
Mm-hmm.
No, God moved in my heart, in my mind, and I just knew in that moment I am lost. I am powerless. I feel like that guy with cerebral palsy on the stage, unable to walk, unable to get up. And at that moment, I saw the guy come and lift him up. And, obviously he's representing Christ. And I said, I want that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, that was a powerful illustration of
Yeah.
what the Lord does to take us out of our mess, you could say, and carry us through it, and then set us on solid rock. And then we can live according to His will.
And not to say that we are without brokenness,
Yeah,
uh, but it is this thing of then the Spirit puts things on your heart, and when we don't follow His will, we are led to repentance.
yeah,
Oh, and we are not perfect people, but it is just like now. I would say this to people. I'm probably stealing this from somebody else, so I'm not trying to claim this as my own. Uh, Knowing Jesus is like coming home. Is like just you just feel, that feeling after you've been out there in the world, you've had a rough day, and then you open the door and you sit down. It's just
a, a comfortable hug.
yes. Like there's a song I love by this guy Josh Garrels, and it imagines Jesus as Odysseus, like in the story of the
Okay.
Odyssey. He went through all these trials and all these struggles to find Penelope, to get back to Penelope. And it pictures Jesus, and it says, basically, classic symbols, when he's going through the sirens, they tie him to the mast, put beeswax in their ears, and he's like, tie me to the mast of this old ship and point me home. Before I lose the one I love, before my chance is gone, I want to hold her in my arms. And it's so simple, but it gets me here every time.
Yeah.
It's of Jesus being like, I know, I just want to hold you. You're my bride. I've purchased you with my life, and I just want to hold you.
Mm.
You
Yeah.
know, it just gets.
That, yes, I understand. And you can want when you really think about it and meditate on it. To me, it give you shivers because it's so intimate. The Lord just want to be intimate with you. Ah,
Yeah.
okay. So you became saved. You say you came to the Lord like in your 20s or in your teenage.
I would say in my teenage years.
Yeah.
I mean,
Okay.
I the thing that I would say is that's when I would say I came, but I came to the Lord. But I would say that another theologian, I wish I could remember his name, wish I remember who said this, said, I think a lot of us will be surprised when we are at the feet of God to learn when we were actually saved. Uh, you know,
Yeah.
so I had that encounter with God. And I would say I believe I was saved then, but who knows? I
Mm,
know, I know that I have a relationship with him now. You know,
yeah. And that's so interesting, interesting what you said, that we will be surprised at the point we really were saved, because we could say, yes, you were saying, no, I am saved and everything is going okay. But when you are really tested, when you are really tried, 10 years, a minute, a week later, when that trouble come, how we react to it will really tell us if we are really following the Lord or not. So I mean that is something that we should even be thinking about.
well, it's like, and I think the thing is, and I guess that's the thing is like, I don't know, at some point between my accident and today, I started taking my faith more seriously, meaning like studying my Bible, having that quiet time, having that as a need, you know. So I wake up at 5 o'clock every morning to eat breakfast and have my quiet time before my children wake up. And my wife is like, "Can't you just do it in the afternoon?" And I'm like, "I can't, I can't wait. I got to start my
Yeah.
day with it because," and it's something that did not happen when I was 13, 14. That happened when I was 24, 25. Where I mean, I would try to have a quiet time every day, but you're like, I'm busy, or I gotta do this, I gotta do that.
Yeah.
But at around that 25, 26, is when God was like, no, like you need this.
When you decided to say yes, at that time, yes, Lord, I want you to be my leader, my director. Did I know you have family and friends. Did the did the dynamics change in your family or your friends or even relationship because you say that you are a Christian and a serious Christian?
Yeah, so for me with I would say things not with my parents were, very excited, both
Mm-hmm.
believers, and my dad works for a church.
Oh,
And
okay.
so he's like, okay, let's get you as a member, you know. Um, but I would say with my friends, I became much more passionate about seeing them saved, about praying for them, about, trying to invite them to church. And then for me, the other thing was especially as I moved into high school, I feel like I started drifting away in a way, especially as they started experimenting with drugs and alcohol and, that sort of thing of going, all right, this is not what I want to do, you know. And I know for them it was like, well, what's wrong? And it's like, you know, well, the thing that's different is Christ, you know. Uh, and yeah, I would say that, and I would say like the missional objective with which I live my life, it definitely changed, and I feel like for me, as natural with most middle school boys, was very self-focused, you know. And then I think as I got into high school, um, Christ moving and living through me, sort of having that care for others as my modus operandi, you know. Yeah, and That's what I'd say, because one of the coolest things that happened as a result of my accident. So I was super passionate about Darfur,
Mm.
Sudan. Very passionate about trying to raise money for that, and for the people there, being just slaughtered by the
Yeah.
Janjaweed. And I had been trying to get something going at my church, like a benefit concert or something. And so what happened as a result of my accident, a friend of mine from church, two friends of mine from church, made these bracelets when I went to the hospital when I was in the coma, said, "Where there's a will, there's a way." And all the proceeds of selling the bracelet went into a fund to raise money for Darfur, and we raised a couple thousand.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, and it's like that's totally the work of Christ, you know,
Yeah.
because as a teenage boy, I can't claim like, oh yeah, I would have definitely thought about that. No, 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 no. That's all Jesus in me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. That is true because we are living, yes, and what is in human, we have the propensity to be selfish.
Hmm.
We like we like the best things for ourselves. So a lot things that would take away or we would think would take away from us, we will not focus on it. So I can understand. Yes, is first anything that is good happen is not of us.
But
Yes, we are just the vessel that started it, but it's the Lord who actually does the work. We
yes.
don't do it, the Lord do it. How did dealing with the the daily things like the lies or loss or doing anything that is a sin or a transgression, how
Mhm.
did you deal with it and how did you combat it?
So I would say for me it was very hard. Lust, I think for me and most guys is just this monster on your back. It's a battle, and it really took, I would say, for me, I'd combat it with trying to focus on the Lord, trying to redirect my mind. But I think the thing that really happened for me, and I wish this wasn't the case, but the biggest thing that did is I met my wife,
Mm,
and I just a blessing from God, because that really helped more than anything, because it was, okay, God, you've given me this beautiful woman. And I mean, and I shouldn't even say when we married, even prior to us marrying, like when we were dating, like, okay, God, I'm dating this beautiful woman. I I want to give her all of my attention. You know,
mm,
I don't want to give that to another woman, even if it's in my mind. Because I would, that was all the case. It was never for me, by the grace of God, I was a virgin until I was married. And
good, good.
yeah, by the grace of God. And I think like the other thing is God protected me so much from people in situations that would drag me into that,
Mhm.
sexual sin. I mean, got into relationships and God didn't let relationships happen. And at the time, you're like, oh man, God, why not? And then it's like now from the lens of the future, it's like, oh, thank God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Thank God. Yeah,
But it's yeah, because we don't realize that disappointment is oftentimes protection.
right,
You
right.
know?
Yes, because we will be so hurt or think of ways to go after what we have lost,
Yes.
telling the Lord that you are wrong. this is the person for me, or this is the job that's for me, or this house, whatever. So we're going to think of ways that we could manipulate
Manipulate, yeah.
the things around so that it come in our favor. But at the end, when we cannot do anything and these things are plucked away from us, and
Mhm.
then the Lord show us the really things at the back of these things that we wanted, the demons, all the bad things, the dark forces. The only thing we could say is thank the Lord that
Yes.
these things did not happen. Oh,
Yeah,
that
that's, I
is
mean,
so
absolutely. And I think it's like, and the Lord has a better plan, you know.
always,
Oh,
always, yeah.
yeah. I mean, for me, I taught high school for 2.5 years, and it was really hard. And I won't say I wasn't good at it. I wasn't good at behavior management. I was never good at managing children. I had like 14, 15-year-olds. I taught freshmen in high school. And I was so disappointed. My third school I was at, I quit halfway through because I just couldn't do it. I mean, come to find out later that I had a heart condition and I had half a heartbeat. So it was there was other reasons why it was
Yeah,
super challenging, but if I didn't quit teaching high school, I wouldn't have found my love of college, and I love my job. I get up every day excited to do it. I mean, grading papers, planning, all the other stuff is stressful, but like, I mean, I love teaching my students, and it's but God was like, don't worry, I got a plan, you know.
yeah. And you listen to the plan and you walk in the plan with God. So, yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
am so happy. That sounds wonderful.
it's
Yeah,
a huge blessing.
yeah. So, how many things happen in your life that tested your zeal for God, or that caused you to look at the Lord more? So, if you want, you can share whatever was that happened to you.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously my brother led me, my situation with my brother led me to God. And then I would say my accident, of course. So I was driving back from work, no drugs or alcohol or anything like that. For me, or the other driver, they don't know whether I crossed the line, they crossed the line, or we both crossed the line. But my 95 Honda Accord was involved in a head-on collision with a Suburban. And the Accord doesn't win that battle. I suffered a collapsed lung, a ruptured spleen, subdural hematoma, for those of you who don't know, bleeding in the brain injury, and then a stroke in my occipital lobe, and then a seizure at the scene of the accident. I was taken to the hospital where I was put into an induced coma, and I was in a coma for 3 weeks. Was a test, and I would say the brain injury recovery process was a test because I went from being great at school, I mean A's and B's, all APs, all that, to really struggling. So when I went back to school the January after my accident, I had let's see, I had to finish PE, I had to finish physics, English, and then I had to do economics. And physics, this class, I was never good at math or science, but on level physics, coming from doing, AP and honors math and science classes, regular physics was super easy for me before. And then I came back and it was incredibly challenging. And I really, really struggled. And I struggled, to get a B in the class. In this class where I had an A and it was no problem. And so that was hard. And then I went to college, and my first semester of college was incredibly hard. I didn't really have that many friends. I really struggled with school. And then I would say that was, eventually through, recovery and healing, I got to a place where I was doing all right with school. And then I got into grad school. And then grad school was, and I think that's about when when my heart condition started. So I think the hard part about grad school, that really tested me when I was when I was in grad school, and then when I was doing my first year teaching high school. Like in college, I'd always just worked harder. Okay, you know what? I have a brain injury. I'm gonna wake up at 4. I'm gonna I'm gonna work my schoolwork, and I'm gonna make sure I succeed. And in grad school, what was so hard, and teaching high school was so hard, is like I worked really hard. I worked all the time, and it was not leading to success. Now, that was God trying to call me to Him. Uh, and eventually, I had these moments where I was in it, and I would be crying out to God, and I would be there with God, and we would be in a good moment. And then I would go back to trusting myself and trusting my abilities. And then I would cry out to God, cry out to God. Okay, trust myself, trust my abilities. And so for me, yeah, it was this great moment though when I got my pacemaker, and I was like, oh, this is what life feels like. Oh my gosh. And then able to be like, God has blessed me in that job, in my job since, but not I wouldn't say this is a result of my actions, because I believe that I cannot determine God's blessing. I'm a filthy sinner. Any action of righteousness I have is because of Christ, but around when I got my pacemakers, like God really just pulled me into a place of gratitude and service for Him. And, you know, it's been a struggle. Of course, it's been hard. I, live with a brain injury and then chemical depression as a result of that, which I didn't know until about about a year ago.
Oh,
Yeah.
oh,
Oh yeah.
okay. You might see persons coming out of an illness, smiling or talking, functioning, but sometimes you do not know really what is lurking in your subconscious, especially. And a person with a brain injury as as well, they sometimes our own body betrays us because
Mm,
we will think that whatever is happening in our mind is just cause of the accident. But sometimes we can our chemicals change and our attitude change, our way of thinking change, and something will just um slip in, and we could be depressed, and we never know.
yeah, and I think because of nothing that my parents ever said, because my parents are nothing but great and supportive, and nothing that anyone at church ever said directly. But there is a culture in the Christian church that fosters trust in God, which is good,
Only,
yes.
only, yeah.
Only, and like, okay, well, I'm just not doing what I need to do. I need to be a better Christian. I need to read my Bible more. I need to pray more. And those things are good. But if you
Yeah,
have chemical processes in your brain, which are the result of trauma or the results of, brain injury, like you need to go to the
yeah.
psychiatrist to get help. And
Wow, yeah,
for me now, doing counseling, doing therapy, and for me, the answer was getting on medicine. Not the answer for everyone,
hmm
but fixing that chemical imbalance in my brain. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Oh, it's turned everything around. Uh, and it's so helped my relationship with God, because I can think
yeah,
clear a lot more. Like, because I don't think people realize how much depression clouds your brain.
So true. Yeah. So you had an accident. You
Hmm.
had a brain injury. You had a stroke. Then you had a heart
Heart
is a
condition.
heart disease,
No, so it's a heart condition called
right?
bradycardia.
Okay,
It's with the nerve. It's something going on with the nerve to the heart.
okay, okay. Right, you
And
have
they're like,
that.
we don't know what caused that. Maybe it was your accident. You know.
That is true. But so you had that, and then the depression.
Mhm.
So I mean, all of these things, and I will say all these
Mhm.
tests and trials are really pushing you to really know, in your words, when you was really saved, when you really understand who God is, you know? So I mean, like, a lot of persons will give up,
Yes.
and they are very strong. You're a very determined person, will,
Like,
and a very, and you are very inspiring,
well, thank you.
because all these things is a lot, and it's back to back, but you
And
still push through.
and it is his thing is it's God. You
Of
know,
course, of
you know,
course.
is it's like and I think there's a great quote and I give it I've said it so many times, so you've probably heard it. Stephen Colbert is interviewed about the death of his dad and two brothers when he was 10. They died in a plane crash. Anderson
Mhm.
Cooper's dad also died when he was 10. And they're talking about grief, talking about loss. And Stephen Colbert says, I am now most grateful for the thing I wish did not happen most. Yeah. And that's how I feel about my accident because of the Lord, because God has enabled me. Like, it makes me so happy to hear that I've inspired and motivated you. And
Yes.
that's like, oh, God saying, I'm using this. It's like for me, I had a student once send me a little email that was like, "Thank you, Professor Carter, for being open about your brain injury. Because of you, I have learned to love myself more." She also had a brain injury. Uh,
Mm,
and it was just like, I mean, that was just like the most encouraging feeling. So the thing is, I I understand blessed are you now
yeah.
because there is a joy and a peace and a purpose with the suffering that you
Yeah.
experience
Yeah.
that's so counterintuitive to what we think.
Yes. Oh my, yes. And I knew how that girl that sent you the thank you
Mhm.
email, because when I first watched your show, and then we were talking, and you're writing your book and everything, I said, oh, that means that I could go back working as well, because I think you interviewed me,
Mhm.
oh wow, years ago, and we were
Yes.
talking and find out that we are down the same line. You were English, I was studying English,
Mhm.
writing, writing books and everything. I was like, wait, if Will can do it, I could do it. It might not be at that point, but
Yeah,
I will do it. And yes, I have written my book, my devotional journal. I have written it.
that's
And
awesome. And for those who
yeah,
can't hear, I'm snapping right now. That's me showing just love and appreciation for Rochelle. Yes.
yes. And I mean, you was the person who inspired me to say that I can write again. I was like, I said, once Will could do it, I can do it when the Lord is ready. And I was still doubting myself because I couldn't talk. I think that you can understand me real better,
Yes.
better.
Yeah.
And I was always doubting that I can, but I I'm so happy that that I this conversation is happening right now because my book
Yes.
is finished right now.
That's awesome.
As I say, you are an inspiring man because you're going through all of this, but you're still going to do what you love. You're teaching and sharing and you're writing. So during all of these things that you're going through, what benefit do you think that you receive from God going through this time of your life? What benefit do you think that you are still having from
Oh.
the Lord?
So, I mean, I would say there's so many. For me, one of the things I would say is empathy. Now I was an empathetic person before my accident, but I would say like it has served me so well as as a professor and a teacher. Like my student, and if I can use some, well, I won't use the salty language. I'll paraphrase what the student said. A student once said to me, "Carter, I can listen to what you got to say, because you've seen some." And here's the word that is changed for another word. Uh, Carter, I can listen to you because you've seen some stuff, you know.
Mhm.
And it was, and I have that like because I am a middle class white man. A lot of my students of color and my students from at-risk backgrounds, from lower economic backgrounds, if I did not have this disability, would look at me as though I have no suffering in my life, which is a judgment call on me. And I've talked to, and I've actually had that conversation with a few of them. Is like you just don't know. Everyone's fighting an invisible battle,
Yes.
but it that has opened that up. And then also, for me with my students, I know that they can look like a bad student based on objective things like grades or attendance or things like that. But in reality, they're trying their best because I had that experience. Especially, I found for myself in grad school with my heart condition, I was giving it my all. And sometimes it looked like I didn't care, but that was the exact opposite. I cared so much, you know, but because of my heart condition and my brain injury, it didn't look that way. So I try not to judge my students. And I am all about second chances and empathy. And I, by the grace of God, a student said this to me. They were like, "Your grace has taught me so much about the Lord this semester."
Mhm.
And I was like, "Well, that's super humbling. Thank you for saying that."
Before you had attitude, your own attitude, whether it be good or bad, hard or harsh, you had one. But I have noticed when you have especially a brain injury, your character they change to go 180 on you. You can be totally different. So you you might have been a person that children could not easily approach you, but now everyone wants you around. So
Yeah.
I've noticed that.
Well, thank you. Well, it's like the thing is, what is amazing, and this is God, is like the thing that I would say is I have become uh, a better conduit for the spirit
Mm,
because I am reminded by physical and mental reasons
mhm,
of my need for God. And
mhm,
prior to my accident, I mean, I would say yes, I became a Christian, I believe. And I would say I needed God, but God was like an add-on. Like most of
Okay.
it, you know what I mean? Like most of life I was good with what
Yeah.
I was an all A pizza and like I was getting the grades, I was doing all the extracurriculars, I was writing plays, I got in this play festival, I was feeling, I was feeling like I'm on top of the world. Now, me, because of my abilities, because of my resume, because of my track record. And then I have this injury, I have this stroke, and honestly, those abilities are taken away for a moment. And I am dependent on God. I'm praying, God, please let me walk. God, please let me graduate high school. God, please let me get this B in physics. God, please let me get into college. God, I am at the feet of Jesus because I can't claim my own abilities.
Yeah.
No. And I would say that is probably the greatest benefit is to be reminded of my insufficiency
Yeah.
because it draws me closer to him.
You see that you don't control anything.
Hmm.
You cannot control anything. And I think for me, it's like when I see that I could not move, I cannot think, I I couldn't talk, not
Hmm.
even make a sound. I I I was like, oh well, I am not the composer of my body, my life. You know, there is a bigger composer,
Yeah.
and so then you just let go, especially those who know the Lord, because there are persons who do not understand, and sometimes I do not know how people can go through things and not have the Lord in their life. But knowing that the Lord was with me, I say, well, I leave it all for the Lord to work it out. It's not my business and not my business. That is the Lord's business to work out in my life. So yeah, we got to let go,
And
and
like,
he just letting go. So I agree with you because you see you can't control anything.
no, and it's all
Mm,
it's all a gift. Like there's a
yeah.
song that I listened to in grad school all the time, and it just comforted me. And it was this song by Sufjan Stevens, Sufjan, Stevens, Stevens. It's called
Hmm.
Vito's Ordination Song, and it
Okay.
is written from the perspective of God, and it
Yeah.
is rest in my arms, sleep in my bed. There's a design. Rest in my arms, sleep in my bed. There's a design. And it was just like the warmest hug of my life to hear because it's like, no, rest. You're not in control.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Like that's better. You know what I
I
mean?
don't
Just
understand. Yeah. You're fighting to control something that you do not have the capacity to control. And we're making ourselves sicker. We're making ourselves tired, more tired, and
yes.
we lose his mercy that he's given us, the grace that he's given us, and we are not seeing that and we are not receiving it because our mind, our spirit is blocked with what we see and what we think that we can do.
Yes.
So, yes, we have to rest, stop and rest. Ah, yeah,
Yes.
I will
Absolutely.
look for that song. I will look for that song.
It's beautiful. I just,
But yeah,
well, like it's the thing of like I think we all have our balms, we all have our medicines, and God uses all sorts of things. I mean, I've heard people talk about other songs or books or quotes or poems or and I love it because it's like, oh yes. We all have these moments where it's like it may not speak to somebody else, but it hit us. Then, you know what I mean?
yeah, people who go through things and realize they need the Lord, everything hit us harder. You're going through all these things,
Mm.
but you're giving God praise for everything that happened because I know you believe with me, everything in life is the Lord allowed to happen for a reason. And
Yes.
it no what is it? Happen sign, everything is for a reason. So with you understanding this and what you encounter and what you have been sharing, what legacy do you think that you will want to leave for the your family, your friends, and the world?
So I think the legacy I want to leave is one of kindness and compassion. Like yes, of course, you have that ego boost that's like, oh, I want to be thought of as great, or but teaching and like it because it fills me with so much joy to hear that I inspired you to write a book because one of the biggest transformations of the Lord for me was post grad school because in grad school it was me and four other people. And I always was like, oh man, I feel like I could be better than that. Like I could write this better, I could do that. Feeling this competition. And
Yeah.
now the Lord has brought me to a place of, oh, I'm just so happy. Like I just gave an Uber driver like, hey, here's my editor's email. Because she had a story. Oh, it was heartbreaking. I won't share her story. I'll let her do that. But it was this very heartbreaking story and very inspirational for what she had been through and what God brought her out of. And I was just like, oh my, I want to encourage you. And then for me as a teacher, nothing makes me happier in the world than when I can have a student. Like I had a student this past week. I had really encouraged her with her writing because she's really good. She's really very talented. I have a bunch of really talented writers this semester. I'm letting them know it. And she was like, you know what? I think I will become a writing minor. I think I'll do that because of your encouragement. And I was just like, it's the best thing in the world. So if I can leave behind a legacy of supporting and encouraging people and lifting others up and helping them succeed, I'll be more than pleased and more than content with that.
Wow. And that is what you want. That others see that you were working for the Lord, not for yourself, and that others were impacted by your life in a positive spiritual way. That is
Oh,
the most important. That persons could see God in you,
and
not
that's
not Bill character. They saw God in you.
well, and that's what I would say is like, I always tell people, I always say for me, as a Christian, it's not about finding your job. It's about finding your ministry. And for
Yeah.
me, my job is my ministry. And a student once said this to me. It's a very sad and then a very happy thing. They said they came into class, there were some protesters outside, honestly, in my belief, carrying unhelpful, horrible signs like God hates the blank and blank, adulterers, fornicators, all the list goes on. And they walked into my classroom and they go, I hate Christians. And they looked at me. They're like, except for you, Carter, you're like a real Christian. And I
Mm.
was like, oh, you have no idea how happy that makes me to hear that second, because I think like something that I would say is my ministry because I feel the Lord shining through me. And I feel like I'm able to be Jesus to students without having to be like, I'm gonna say these things. I'm gonna quote this verse. You know,
Yeah.
it's just
Yeah.
God lives through me, and by His grace, my students and my colleagues are able to see the love of God. And
Yeah.
I always just pray like, God, don't let them confuse it for me. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. The only living Bible they a lot will ever see. Because a lot could say they will never touch the physical Bible, but they could see you as a physical Bible in your words, your actions, your
Mhm.
love. Oh, that is so good and it's so wonderful. It's causing persons who have who hear this as it was is causing me to be be real with your your Christian life, your following the Lord, because uh, knowing that you might be the only person that other person might be saved because of your attitudes and your words, you have to step up, you know.
Yeah.
So you're calling people to really
Well,
man up, you know, or woman up.
yes. Well, absolutely. I think the thing is like I always have the fear because I worked in academia, you know,
Mm,
not known for being the most Christ-centered, shall we say,
yeah,
environment.
yeah,
Um, I always have the fear of like, okay, I don't want a student to think I'm proselytizing or a student think that I'm trying to push my beliefs on them.
mhm,
But the thing that I found is like, for instance, I mean, won't go into a long thing about this, but you know, I have I've had a number of trans students, you know,
okay,
and for me, because my dad, you know, and others, I'll hear other people say like, "What do you do with that?" As a Christian, I say, "Well, I love them.
yeah,
I love them. They're my students, and I don't treat them any differently. And if they want me to call them a different name, I call them a different name. If they want a different pronoun, I'll give them because my job is to love them. And
yeah,
I've been so happy because I have a number of students who have negative experiences with the church, unfortunately, just experiencing hate and hurt. And my job is not to say, what does the Bible say about your actions? My job is to be Christ. And I'm so happy. Like some of those students are my closest relationships. Some of those students are, and I had a student say, like, you know what, you really made me think differently about Christians. And I was just like, again, no, not me. It's
yeah,
not me.
yeah, yeah, correct,
It's
yeah,
God.
yeah. That's true. The student told you they are thinking differently about Christians. And then when they see, then they will say, well, I will have to think different about God. And then the Lord will work whatever. I, it's, it's just steps, steps,
Steps. Yeah.
steps. That's all.
Well, and that's like I've been reading this book, Sharing Jesus Without Freaking Out. I've been
I
have
love
you heard?
that title.
Well, it's
No,
a
but
great.
I love that title.
Oh, absolutely. Because I don't know. I always struggled with evangelism because I'm like uncomfortable. I don't want to make anyone uncomfortable or make
Mm,
them, you know. And it's like he's like, you're
yeah.
not trying to sell them something.
Right. Yeah.
You just talk about faith, build a relationship with them, and talk about God, and
Yeah.
be intentional with your words. He's not saying to be lazy, but it's like great because it's like, yeah. I mean, I'll share this because this is God. I know this is the right place for this. This is one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me as a professor. A student walked up to me after class one day and said, "Professor Carter, I remember you said that you're a Christian. I just saw this movie, God is Not Dead. I'd love to talk with you more about Christianity."
Hmm.
And then I met with the student, and then I waited. I met with him, I talked with him, and I was like, once you're no longer my student, we can meet more. because I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to, again, have to walk a fine balance.
Yes, yeah,
I'm not trying to convert anybody directly. You know what I mean?
yeah.
I can't, like, that's against the policies of the professor, but like once he was no longer my student, that summer we met over Zoom. And
Mm.
we talked about God and we read through the Bible, and by the grace of God, he accepted Christ. Uh,
Amen.
and it
Amen.
was and it was just from him going, "Hey, you're a Christian. You seem like a real Christian. Talk to me about Christianity."
Yes,
And I was
yes.
like, I mean, I wish every evangelist opportunity was just like that.
Some people are overzealous sometimes. They,
Mm,
they, they don't mean anything bad, but they're just a little too overzealous. Then there are what I say, the Pharisees that just like to thumb things in person's mind, acting like they're better than you. And then there's those like that say that don't say anything that they are Christian or they follow, but people are drawn to you because of your actions and your words, and they could hear the Lord in your actions and words. So, of course, people will be attracted to that, and they will want to know more because they want to know why you have all that joy, especially after having all of these illnesses attacking you.
yeah, yeah, and it's
Yeah.
and I'd say this thing, you know, bad things, struggles don't happen to you; they happen for you. Um,
Mm, yes.
I heard somebody say that, and I thought that was beautiful. So yeah, I mean, like, I have been blessed by
Okay.
God. Yeah, that's
Yes, you
just
are blessed. Yes, you are blessed and you are a blessing. So, what do you see for yourself that you would like to see in 5 years?
so what I'd love to see in 5 years. Well, of course, I would love to see both of my kids saved. I would love to see my brother and then other family members saved. And for me, what I would love is I'm really trying to grow my writing and get my book out there and get more out there, because I have been amazed, such as this conversation today, at how, like, God has used what I've done and am doing, and so for me, like, I love this opportunity. Thank you so much. And thank you for all your kind words, because, like, I love talking about this stuff, and I am humbled is the right word by how God uses my words uh to impact for the kingdom. And so
Yeah.
yeah, I'm hoping, when the book comes out, I'm hoping to these events, and it's been amazing to see, because prior to this memoir, I feel like I largely wrote for myself and my ego,
Mm,
you know, um, and God did not bless those. Maybe I got to play in a play festival, or, what I mean? I got into grad school, but he didn't bless them because they didn't need to be blessed. They were all for me and my ego, and for me to feel, oh, I'm so smart, or I'm such a good writer, or, I'm so funny, or whatever. But with this memoir, it's not the only, it's the start of me writing for others. And then God has been like, I'm not doing prosperity gospel. I'm not saying that my actions promote God's blessing, but it is like, because it's not for me and it's for others, like, God's like, I'm going to give it to others. I've given you this story to give it to others. And
whoa, whoa, whoa. I mean, can you say a twin? Because you're saying the exact thing. I mean, like the twin. I tell you, when I met you, this will be like when I saw you on Instagram, and this will be almost 6 years. I was like, this, this is the male version of what I went through. And
Yeah,
now hearing you again, I said, yeah, we are twins. And
we're
you
twins,
see how you
absolutely.
inspire someone thousands of miles away because I am Barbados in the Caribbean.
Yes.
You you are inspiring other persons who really want to get up and still do something. Yes, all my right side is paralyzed. Yes, but still I have a left side and I
Yes.
use it to the Lord. And
Yes.
so when I saw you and what you did and what you're doing, I said I can do it too. But when the Lord is ready, so I'm so happy to hear my twin is getting through in life. So it is like encouragement for me to
Well,
always hold on to the Lord, and whatever He wants me to do will come true.
and this in your words are the biggest encouragement to me. And it is this thing of, you get so stressed out with work and with kids and with the demands of this world. And I have to remember to keep writing. I have to remember to keep creating because I am just so humbled and encouraged and just like filled with joy to hear that I could inspire and encourage you. Like this is the best, you know. Uh, and so that's like absolutely, I would say anybody can do it. I This is my always my statement to my students, especially with writing. I always tell them writing is a skill, it's not an ability. So they'll be like,
Mm,
I'll talk to them and I'll be like, wow, you have a story. And they're like, I can't write. And I was like, take that garbage out of your mouth. No, you can learn to write. And you know what?
yeah,
Most of writing is just being honest. Do you think you can be
yeah,
honest? Yes. Then you can write, you know.
yeah,
And yeah, and share your story. Or maybe you don't write it, maybe you do it verbally. Maybe you're on
yeah,
Instagram. Maybe you do interviews, maybe you talk about it, maybe you do a podcast. But yeah, I
yeah.
mean,
That's
I
true.
I love what you said was just joy to my heart. So thank you.
More blessings to come.
Yes.
More blessings to come. You can share just a minute of blessings. They call it blessings or encouragement to those persons out there, especially persons who have disabilities, who had a stroke or brain injuries, who think that because they cannot think the same as their old self, that now that they have a new way of thinking, that they cannot do anything anymore. So talk to us for a minute.
Oh, absolutely. So what I would say about that is I would say the Bible says that you are a beautiful and wonderful creation of God. And the and Greg Graham, you know, AVM superhero, if you know him on Instagram, said that these words really encouraged him, and I was blessed by that. But it is like the Bible says you are a glorious and wonderful creation. It doesn't say were, and also it doesn't say will be. So it's not that you were great, now you've got this brain injury, or you've got this brain injury, but once you heal, you will be. No, you are right now, today. And God has given you this story to do something with it. Things don't happen to us, they happen for us. So you have this story, you have this thing. And you may not be able to have an inspirational moment right now. Maybe you're not at a place where you feel like you can inspire. It is just enough to share about the darkness, because what you'll do for somebody is they'll say, "Oh, you're there too. Oh, you too." So I would say there is nothing that can stop you. There's a guy I know on Instagram who doesn't talk. He cannot speak, but he writes the most beautiful things. You know, I know, or there's people who, maybe you're not comfortable with writing, but they can say the most beautiful things. They can speak the most beautiful things. If you are here, then God has you to do something. That would be my encouragement.
If you are here, the Lord wants you to do something. Yes, yes. And hello to Greg, another inspirational man. Yes.
Oh, absolutely.
I met
Love
all two of you at the
Miss
same
Greg.
time. Yes,
Oh, yeah. No, I'll shout out Greg all day long, because
yes,
Greg
yes,
is one of the first people I interacted with on this platform, and
yes,
he's always one to encourage others and support others
yes,
and
yes,
inspire others. So yeah, shout out to Greg. Much love to
right.
Greg.
Yes. Much love. So you have heard this. I don't even know what the perfect word to tell you how this conversation with Will Carter went. But this is, the word I always say, wonderful, and inspiring, life altering. Yes, life altering conversation that I have with Will. And I hope that you were blessed deep in your spirit. Don't just be blessed or feel good because it was a good interview conversation. No, be blessed because you know that you could do something for the Lord if you surrender to Him. So, well, thank you so much that
Well, thank
after these years that we are supposed to have this interview,
you.
that the Lord did it at the right time.
Amen. Amen. Thank you so much for having me. This was glorious.
You're welcome. And that's His trademark to say glorious. And that is so beautiful. It's all every
Absolutely.
time that I hear you say it, it's so beautiful because
Thank
you
you.
understand what the glory is. Oh no,
Yes.
we know what the glory is. And when
Yes.
you say that word is that beautiful. So
Thank you. Yes. No. It's my trademark. You
yes,
know.
it's your trademark. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And
So
by all glory to God.
yeah. Oh this I had goosebumps because this it was wonderful. Yeah, this conversation was a blessing for me, and I hope it's a blessing for you viewers and listeners. So until we meet again
Absolutely.
next time, be bold, be brave, and just know that you can take your steps to lead. Bye bye.
Bye.